Hello class, this is Dr. Mike with a few more minutes of Linux for you here. So we're going to talk about file globbing. File globbing is pretty simple. It's a simple form of using something called wildcards or special characters for pattern matching. So probably the most basic one we could think about is, of course, our asterisk. Also in our test directory, we can practice this with. So a simple case here would be ls test. I want everything that is a CSV file. You can see here it matched any file that had the extension CSV. Now, of course, we can get a little more complex with that. We can say, give me everything alpha dash asterisk. We can prepend that with some string of text, or we can even do multiple in there. Give me everything with an A. So the lab will show you more examples of this, but that's the first real simple example of wildcarding. Now we can also, let's say I want also things to start with A and F. So what I do is I use a bracket symbol. I can say the first character starts with A or F. Now you can see it's now included the food.text in our output. Again, the lab will go through a little more details on both all these pattern matching, and you get more complex. So I'll leave the lab for you to really explore this more in depth. And this actually leads into something called regular expressions or regex. And actually we do explore this in the class, but it is a very common and very handy way to deal with a lot of the files. And the second part of this week is probably the most important one. It really is essential file management. We've already talked about ls and pwd, things like that. But let's talk about actually dealing with files. So let's do cd into test. Let's talk about our first and probably most common file manipulation and management is copying with the cp. So the copy command is pretty straightforward. It takes two arguments. I need a file to input for it. So copy food.text. And the second argument is what I want to call it and where I want to put it at. So I can actually put it in a different directory, temp. I'll keep the same name. I can actually leave it blank. The shell will actually interpret a blank, or if I put a dot, it will say keep the same name. I don't want to change the name of this file. So in this case, food.text will be copied into the temp directory. And you can see there it is. Now if I want to do the same command again, but I actually want to rename it, more food. We can actually rename files also. Again, we look at temp, we can see now there's more food.text. Common thing to do is make a copy of a file before you edit it. So a simple example here is I have these os.csv. Copy os.csv, and let's say I want to edit this file, but I want to maintain the original copy of it. Again, a great idea to do, especially if you do any kind of system administration. You want to keep a backup of the original config files. So I'm going to make it called os.csv, and it's going to append that with EC key for backup. And as you see, I made a copy of it right where it's at. So again, copy will be, you'll explore this again in this week's lab. And very similar is a move. And we have these files here. Move's pretty straightforward. It's going to move the file. So let's take that copy, os.csv-back. I want to move that to temp. I want to keep the same name. So it has the same context and arguments as the copy. And if I look in temp, you can see there it is. pretty easy. So you'll explore this. If I want to rename a file in my current directory, so move and rename are the same. So let's go ahead and actually move temp.oscsv back to here. I'll rename that oscsv.bck. Move and rename are the same. Let's do a move oscsv back as, let's call it opsys.csv, whatever my name is, and I renamed it. So I'll move and rename. There's opsys now. So mv and cp, two very basic commands that are, of course, very powerful, and really the basics of getting around Linux. To look at other things, of course, make directory, remove directory. You should see this mkdir and rmdir. So I made a directory here called temp now. Simple thing here, rmdir will remove the directory. Let's go ahead and move that opsys into temp, same name. Try to remove the directory, temp, it will give me an error because it's not empty. So by default, removing directories that need to be empty. It's sort of a safety catch to make sure you don't really cause any issues. And of course, to remove a file is the rm command. Be very careful with this, especially if you do this with something like file globbing. rm * will remove everything I have permissions to touch and or manipulate. So be very careful with that. Now you'll look at other things with rm and copy. You can do recursive rf. That's recursively remove everything, including subdirectories, and force it to be removed. Be very careful when, again, deleting them with that fashion. So what I recommend is I'm going to cd into temp, remove the file rm, cd back. Now if I try to go ahead and temp, it is now removed because it is empty. So the rest of the lab will have you look at the stat command, which you can look at the underlying file stats, as well as it talks about the touch command, which we've explored already. Touch does a couple things. It will create a file if it does not exist. So touch new file. And you can see my new file there. 0 byte size, it's empty. Also, it will touch red.txt. You can see it actually will update the date and time of the file too. So touch has two features here. It can be used to update the date and time access time, even though it hasn't been changed. The date and time shows it's been accessed, and or create a new file. And we'll wrap up with that. So probably the biggest thing is understand the file manipulation commands, and also probably the biggest thing is when you remove something, it's gone. There is no recycle bin. So be very careful when you combine rm and any kind of wildcards. And we'll wrap it up with that, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you.